we're kind of on the same team, but we're also not on the same team. And so,
Mhm.
and that when you brought up competing at Pans, I think that would have caused issues because I close out. I'm not a drama guy. So I think to fight your teammate or to fight your friend is something that causes unnecessary burden and
Does it?
harsh feelings. For me, I would think so, and I'm an overthinker. So I would be like, if I
Same.
ended up beating, Kevin, is that going to hurt our friendship? And then I would think about that at 1:00 at night when I'm having an anxiety attack.
Yeah, but what if, I mean, I can throw something in there, because what happens is if you compete all the time and you see all the same guys, and that's happening with me essentially, like I'm becoming friends with all of them. So it's like the guy I lost to at last Pans, we're talking all the time now. He's from Toronto. And it's like the guy I lost 0-0 at this Pans, like we're now friends on Instagram and we're like talking shit about other people now too. So it's like at some point,
me,
everybody just becomes friends.
Yeah, for me, it's just business. I don't talk to anybody when
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
in the bullpen. Yeah.
See, I'm the other way around.
Business. Yeah. I can't do that. I can't talk to the person before the fight because I'm like,
you're zoned in.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
that's not. Yeah. Where I'm sure there's tons of guys where on the podium bullpen that I've talked to, and we exchange Instagrams and stuff like that. But no, it's for me.
It's all business. Huh?
Yeah, my friendship parking lot's full.
Interesting. Yeah, but it's casual friendships, because it's not really friendships, but it's like, for example,
they're like work friends.
Right. However, like I'd go and drop in somebody's gym when I'm in town, and like we'll roll and we'll chill, kind of like you and Kevin. It's like, for example, like I've been talking to Eric for a while, and we might drive out there and basically do some shit. And so
that'd be awesome.
But he's in my division, and so it's like the question is, what's the scope? Like, to me, as a Masters 3 competitor, especially, and at blue belt, I don't know, maybe it gets harder and more competitive at higher levels, especially if you're younger, kind of on the medal chase. To me, it's like it's kind of a professional hobby to some degree. Like, yes, I'm chasing wins, but I'm also out there like making friends.
Yeah. And I think that's a different. The way that I look at jiu-jitsu and competing is it is kind of a business for me, where I do have contracts and stuff, and I have sponsors.
Okay, well, see, that's different for you.
Yeah, so that's why at black belt, when I won't probably compete as much and have stuff that I have to fulfill on my end, it'll probably be like that, where I'm a friendly guy, I'm friends with everybody, so I'll probably have that. But for me right now, it's like I have goals that I have to fulfill, so it's like I'm not letting somebody kind of step in my way of that.
Interesting. Yeah, and maybe people find me annoying for doing that. I've never really asked, because I just kind of like show up in the bullpen and I start shooting the shit with people I'm essentially going with.
That's something that I think it varies by person. Playing competitive lacrosse in college and talking to the defenseman, I would never do that shit. If a defenseman came and talked to me, I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, dude. We're doing something here."
Interesting.
And I think there are other people like you, Dave, that are open to that conversation and open to talking to people and making friends. But for my competitive spirit, it's like, no, dude, you're trying to take food off my fucking plate. I'm not
interesting.
doing that shit.
See, I look at that whole completely different, because even in the business world, like I ran businesses before, and I've been in multiple industries, and every industry I've essentially made friends with my competitors, literally like people who are after the same clients as I am, and I've always kind of had relationships with friendly relationships, because like ultimately, if the industry grows, that's my outlook. Like if the industry grows, I don't give a shit who they buy from. As long as people continue buying the product, one day they'll buy from them, the next day they'll buy from us. And
Yeah.
if they're not a good fit for me, because typically people buy with people, or people
Yeah.
buy from people. So it's like, because everybody kind of sells the same shit over and over again. And
Hmm.
so it's like the only thing that really matters is the way you treat your customer. And so really it's just
Yeah.
a people game. And so, like, sometimes you're a bad match with the customer. So I'm happy to refer you to my competitor who will take better care of you, and you might vibe with them better. And they will do the same
Yeah.
for me, essentially. And so, like, I've always approached competition through the lens of collaborative competition, because, like, we're all in the same space. It's like, yes, we're all going after the same prize, really, whether it's money in the business or it's like medals in the competition. But it's like we're all in the same bullpen. And
Yeah.
so if it's not for them, I'm also not getting better. So I might as well like make those relationships. And actually, a lot of times once I've exited industries, those other people gave me other opportunities because we were friendly at one point. And so it's kind of like the strength of weak ties, you know?
Mm. That's really interesting, and I'm glad that you brought that up because it does change my perspective a bit on especially in a working environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with I think it's been about winning for me, and that's probably just a cultural thing for me. Is
Mm-hmm.
just the way that I was raised
Mm-hmm.
was, you know, this person is trying to take from you as opposed to your perspective, which is we're trying to grow together. And that's something that I've never thought about,
Yeah.
especially in the jiu-jitsu space where you're right. It's without your opponent, you're not doing something.
Yeah.
And so I
And
think that's a really, really interesting way.
yeah, and another layer on top of that is like they're also in the same space as I am. They're also fucking weirded out and fucking anxious, and it's like, but they're also
Yeah.
human. Like I generally not a fan of people. You mentioned like you don't like people. It's like I feel exactly the same. Like I don't fucking feel empathetic. I
Yeah.
all my empathy is typically channeled through logical long gaming. You know,
Hmm.
just naturally. It's like I can't help it. It's just how I'm born. However, like I find that going through a bunch of business sales and kind of my work life, and again, I'm like 44 and I'm fucking like 20 years into a bunch of careers. I find that people are at like the core of everything, and
Yeah.
these relationships mean more to me than wins because I'm playing the long game. And the
Yeah.
short term is the wins, but the long game is the wins by having more people that know you through your reputation of a better human being. You know what I'm saying? Like I've learned that. That's just
So
me.
let me pose this because this is a situation that I found myself in. Was in Miami when I was competing, I had to break my opponent's arm. And I
Mm,
did it 3 times because he didn't tap. So
he didn't
could
tap.
he didn't tap.
No shit.
And the video is gross. Like his arm, I broke his elbow. He left on a stretcher.
No shit.
And so that's one thing that I think about is if I were to build that relationship with my opponent, are you going to be able to when that time happens where you're deep in a sub and you have to put him out or you have to break his arm or his ankle,
Yeah.
are you going to be able to get over that hill and accomplish that? Or
Yes.
is that going to be a step back for you
No.
where you're like, I'm not going to do it?
No. I think it's an unwritten, an unspoken rule that if I'm put in a situation like that, I'm not thinking you I'm not thinking of you as a friend in a specific situation, even though we might be
Yeah.
friends outside of it, because we're both there for the prize. The other thing that might happen is if you guys were friends, it's possible that he would have tapped. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm,
think by having relationships with people, you break through the barriers of this kind of stone wallness,
mm,
and you kind of melt certain ices to some degree, which is exactly another reason I'm in the bullpen basically talking to the guys trying to make friends that
yeah.
I'm about to fight, because if push comes to shove, I want them
To have
to
that
think
grace.
them to think of me as a human being. It's kind of like, if somebody's pointing a gun at you, you basically have to tell them your name. Hey, my name is Dave and I got 2 kids. You literally have to
Yeah.
make yourself human, because without the relationship, there's no human element.
Yeah. That's a long con. That is a strategy, man. That is, and I think I haven't thought about that of when push comes to shove, because to me, at my competition, they're just a name. You're exactly right, where they are literally just a name, and they are preventing me from getting what I need.
Yeah,
I want.
yeah.
And so,
I understand, and I get why you're doing it. Just my thinking kind of evolved, and I used to think that way too. But my thinking
yeah,
evolved to the point of the long game, even to the degree beyond the initial, industry
interaction. Yeah,
competition interaction. It's like, if I don't have to break your arm, then that might make you a better human being. That'll make a better world out there for my fucking kids to live in. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
We're all playing the same game too,
Yeah, we're
It's
literally
part of the
like in the
game.
same space, man. Like if you kind
It
of
goes to show that I think you have more faith in humanity
I
than
do.
I do.
And
'Cause I don't
Well,
fucking
it's like
trust.
I've gone through the thinking that you've had,
Mhm.
where it's basically, nihilism, and there's, shit is garbage. People are garbage. And I've gone through a series of bad situations. Almost divorce. Fucking, my partner in my business fucking me over, which led to a business sale, and that, a whole variety of things, and that essentially led me to thinking that it's almost kind of like a backdoor into being a non-religious into religion. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't believe any of this shit, but it's better to live as if it's true.
hmm,
You know what I'm saying? It's like, whether
yeah,
whether or not, if you think of it as stories, like the meta narrative of, the snakes and all the bullshit. It's like, you're gonna have a better time thinking that it's actually correct, even
That's
if you
probably
don't
why I
believe
have
it.
some. Yeah, that's probably why I have so much fucking anxiety, is my distrust for other people.
Yeah.
it's yeah. I mean, we're all playing the same game in my head. I've never, no, actually, no. I've never known the person before or talked to the person before. I've noticed that in jiu-jitsu, especially, there's people like Jake will go find every one of his opponents and go shake their hand and be like, "Hi, I'm Jake. Hi, I'm Jake." Before at every
Yeah,
tournament, like
I
he
do the
goes
same
around,
thing.
shakes their hands, and I'm not like that. I kind of keep to myself. Go in the bullpen, and I don't even look at anyone really. I don't pay attention. I don't really care. I don't know what they look like until we're both walking out. I'm like, oh, that's him. Or sometimes you're walking around, you're like, oh, that's probably someone in my division. But
Yeah,
I don't know. That's very interesting that you said you're talking about, had I signed up, it might have fucked things up in that degree.
Interesting.
You're saying it would have fucked things up for you mentally if we were on the same side of the bracket, or just like in general.
in general, knowing that if we had to fight, I would have tried to change something and been like, look, we're not on the same team, but we're on the same team,
Yeah.
and see what the ref does in that situation and put it on the ref. And part of it is, and something that Dave brought up is, I'm never gonna fucking tap to Kevin. Ever. He's never gonna catch me in his
But maybe,
submission.
but
He's
maybe
gonna have to
not.
fucking put me out.
Maybe now you will.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Well, what
better.
if I
Like, what the fuck's the
what
point
if I
of
come to
not
your
tapping?
gym?
Well, like, what are you winning by
Yeah.
not tapping?
Oh wait, things just got interesting. What if I come to your gym? Because I'm planning on coming to your gym.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
you come, it's still gonna be, and that's one thing about training is, outside of camp, I don't give a shit. I don't drill. I miss warm ups. I
okay,
don't give a fuck. I barely go 5%, and especially against lower belts, I'll let them work. And, unless it's a bigger guy where I feel like I'm in some sort of actual physical danger, I don't care. That we're supposed to tap in those rounds and stuff like that. And you don't win anything tapping
Because
somebody
I'm not going to win by points. I know that.
at the gym,
My style is not good for points.
Yeah. So
Or
for me, especially with teammates and friends and stuff like that, it's just an excuse to touch other men. So
It's funny.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't know you felt that way, man. You could have texted me that before I possibly fucked the whole bracket up.
No,
Had I known,
no.
you talked me out of it. Because
that
thought
was
I
my
literally
game plan.
I thought by taking that last 16th spot in the division was gonna make it so no one had any buys, and I was gonna fuck the game up. And you were like, "Oh no, they're still gonna split it up and give us buys," and that's what told me like, "All right, it's not worth it." Just the
Yeah.
troll. I cared about the troll more than I cared about the actual competition.
Part of it was the buy, because I would have liked to buy in the first round. That would have been nice. That's one less fight I have to do.
Yeah.
But the main part of it was I didn't want to have to compete against you, and because we are friends, and so that's like the one thing for me is I don't like mixing that side of business with friendship, because like Dave said, there's been events that I'm like, you can ruin entire friendships on something as minute as a jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah, but I think a friend would tap. That's the other thing.
If you're my friend, you will try to kill me.